When somebody teaches you something complicated like a board game, the first thing they say is never, okay, here's how we do turn one. No, they start with, okay, here's how you win. And if you want to win the game, you have to first understand this handful of rules. Once you get the core concepts involved, then you can start to talk about things like what do we do on turn one and turn two. And digital painting is no different. So if you'll bear with me here, before we get into all the fun specifics of the tools and the minutia, let's just ask that all-important question. What is digital painting? An image like the one that I made here is a great example to talk about, because at a glance we think, oh, well, it looks like a painting. So it'd be totally reasonable to assume that you get out a sketch and then you start refining that sketch and you just move in a forward direction, and after enough hours it ends up being a finished painting. But the reality looks a little different. It turns out somewhere in the middle we stop doing things that look like traditional painting and do things that are really only possible on a computer. So what looks totally flat is actually a layered document, and you can literally modify one of the elements without affecting the others, no matter where it is in the image. All this is to say that the challenge ahead of us has a number of facets. It's not as simple as it looks. And if you're starting from the very beginning, I think it helps to know what you're in for. At a really high level, we've got two different skills happening here. First and foremost, this is art. These are drawings, but they are also on the computer. So we have art skills that are the most essential, and then we have software skills that allow us more options. Now, if you want to follow along with me and learn digital painting, we're just going to need a few basic supplies. The first and most important is you need a desktop or a laptop computer. These are the ones that have keyboards. Generally, they also have a mouse. Although the second thing you need is that we're going to replace that mouse with a stylus. So you might be asking, well, what about an iPad Pro, or what about a mobile phone with a stylus? You know, these just don't cut it. For a variety of reasons you'll understand later, you need a full keyboard and a desktop or a laptop. They just give you all the options you need. The next thing you're going to need is software. Now, for me, I use Photoshop. I use it because it's what I've always used, both personally and professionally, and it happens to be what people call industry standard. Now, that doesn't mean it's the only one that can make digital paintings. So if you want to follow along with GIMP or Krita, these are open source alternatives, go for it. Just know that to follow along exactly with what I'm doing, I will be using Photoshop. But much more important than the tools is the idea. Just like I said, we're learning those art skills and those software skills. And if you're anything like me, when I started, I was so impatient and I went right to the software skills. But I can tell you from experience, you are going to have so much more fun with this if you have the art skills first and then start to tackle the software. So if I haven't scared you off with any of this yet, the next video is going to get one step more specific, and I'm going to talk about how I created this spaceship from start to finish. And you might be surprised at some of the techniques involved. So I'll see you in the next video.